to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity for Camp Partnership. And this session, this podcast is going to be focused on Life GPS. And it's just like it sounds. It's a GPS for life. And so it was inspired 15 years ago when my oldest daughter was engaged. And her husband lived in Michigan. We lived in the Chicago area, and we were at the train station. And so her fiance at the time, we were sending him off on the train back to Michigan. And there, it was early morning, so there's a bunch of commuters and stuff like that going to Chicago, and so there's 50, 100 people milling around this train station. And Ginger Ann said, I think it was Brenna, one of her friends. They were twins too. And so Brenna, she said, I think it was Brenna just got engaged. I'm like, oh, that's cool. She says, but it's not official yet because it's not on Facebook. And I'm like, I don't understand that. And she's like, well, Dad, there's a status on Facebook. And she hasn't changed her status yet to engaged, so she's not engaged. I'm like, what? Like, what? And then I realized the power of social media, where people are like the status thing is one of the most important things on Facebook. Like, what's the status? Like, because it defines so much of who you are, I guess. I don't know. And then I started looking around, and then I started thinking, there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people here that if I met them, I could go ahead and have lifelong relationships with them. Have you guys had these same experiences, or am I just weird?
I don't think I have, though.
Okay, I'll just say I'm weird. and so I thought, if they knew, like if they knew how amazing I was, this is not ego. It's just understanding I'm creating God's image, as everybody is. Everybody's amazing. If they understood how amazing I was, and I could understand how amazing they were, and it could bring us together right there on the platform, it could have, like, I could have my, my smartphone, and it could go ahead and introduce me to somebody like 10 feet away from me that I'll never run into in my life again. And they could say, hey, go talk to Joe over there. Joe, go talk to Mark. And then we could see the 2 dots coming together. I'm like, oh, that would be so fun. Again, maybe I'm weird. So like at camp, Cheryl, we got to work with you a little bit. When I say that, you're not supposed to laugh. Like, you're not supposed to laugh. You're supposed to go, I don't know what you're talking about, Mark. Like, you got to. Anyways, so at camp, there's 600 people. And these 600 people, they're probably going to go ahead and hang out with the people they know rather than connecting with new. And so these 600 people, there's 600 kids that are going all over the place. And there's some, I'm guessing, some forced integration, some where you're mixing it up, playing basketball with people you've never met before, or playing at the water park, or, doing the different things. So you meet other people, you do fun things together, and all of a sudden you potentially create a relationship for life. And I don't even know how many. I think 2 or 3 couples at least I met that they met their spouse at camp. Like, how cool is that?
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. And so it's like, so I'm thinking, well, at camp, it would be really cool to go ahead and, like, what are your interests? And so Norman shared in the first podcast, one of the challenges that they had was the older kids kind of aging out, almost like in the foster care system. in America, once you hit 18, there's no system in place to help you. So you've been helped all these 18 years, but now you're out of the foster system. And so many of the girls go into prostitution, and there's so much mess after 18 in the foster care system. And so it's not like that it's not like people get in a mess. It's just they've been there, done that. Well, what have they been there and what have they done? Well, they've done all the physical activities. Maybe they've come for 4 years. Or, my 4-year-old granddaughter, Micaiah, she's got so many amazing people and so many amazing men in her life. So she's got an uncle that's starting to have Odeas. That's what she says. She's like, Grandpa, I have an Odea. It's becoming a word. It's a super idea. It's like this super, idea. And so the Life GPS can help, because what you do is you get older, you go from playing, swimming and all these other things, and you start moving into relational. And so I can see, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids starting to say, they're saying, I need an economic engine. I can see them having an entrepreneurial, like when I was 8 years old and I went to camp, seriously, this is a true story. I went to Camp Fairwood, and I was 8 years old, and I don't know, I started trading different things and making money. I'm like, if they had an entrepreneurial, this was a Christian camp. I'm not saying I shouldn't have done that, but I don't know. It wasn't any rules against it. So I started, and I realized at the age of 8 at camp that I wanted to be in business. I had a natural ability. So if they had entrepreneurial at 8 years old, shoot, I'd have been in an entrepreneurial, session. But at 15, 16, like, how do you turn, like if you're doing circus, like we went out to the, Pigeon Forge area on vacation. And what did I see? I saw all these circus performers. I'm like, I know a place that trains those people. I know a place that trains those people. That's really cool. And so what I'm looking at for the older kids, to be able to start getting into the emotional and relational types of things at camp. What a more fun place to do than at camp. And then I'm looking at, I was with 5 of my grandkids this last week, and there was, they're great kids, love them to pieces. And kids and siblings are just going to fight. And so even at the young ages, how do you get along with one another? How do you get along with one another? And so they could learn that at camp. Shoot, there could be, an elective or something. This is what the kid wants. I want to do this. And maybe what the parents are putting up a lot of money. This is what the parents want. You get some child, and the parents get something. So maybe, I don't know. So in the Life GPS, there's groups. Again, the camp can have a channel, and underneath the channel can be all the things of interest. And then in the things of interest, here's a channel. It's set up for you. So we could have people, go ahead and join this channel. And then in the channels, underneath the channel, you can set up topics. Or here you have a channel. Underneath channels, there's group, and underneath groups, there's topics. So if you're taking basketball, you could have a topic of basketball dribbling. You could have a topic of basketball, and passing and shooting and offense and defense. And so you could have all these topics. Now, what's really cool is the vision the vision of this is to teach people in their own personality. So, like, there's nothing in the world that's like this. And so each of the different personalities are learn in different ways. They're motivated totally in different ways. The amiable, how they're going to learn basketball and why they're even playing basketball, their entire motivation for being in basketball is different. The analytic, how they learn basketball and how they go ahead and their motivation for being in basketball is different. Same thing for driver, same thing for expressive. So Coach Steve Ryan, the head coach of Morningside football, college football out in Western Iowa, he brought all of his players to my house years ago. Like, there's all these football players, and he took them on a road trip to come to our house. And we had all these football players, and we gave them training in personalities, because in sports, the personality, the reason somebody's good at a sport is in part is going to be because of their personality. And what's going to hold them back is going to go ahead and be their personality. I'm talking to Coach Ryan, and he's using this to recruit. So I see Life GPS as being a massive recruiting machine for camps. Well, for any group, but for camps, we're talking about camps. And then onboarding them and bringing them in. So you could have different, like right now, they have the coolest system, and we could, I think, integrate into that system. And so if a camper tests out as an amiable, what their camp experience wants. They're going to tell you this is what they want, but it will, and then it could communicate to them based on their personality. Like, it's the coolest thing in the world. And so Coach Ryan, he's like, well, this is, I'm trying to recruit, so he tells me the roster, and he says, here's Joe. I said, what's Joe's position? He said, wide receiver. And I looked at Joe's personality. It's all I did. I said, my guess is Joe as a receiver, this is his strengths. And I said, he's probably a big playmaker, but he makes he fails a lot. He makes a lot of errors. And he's like, you have got to be kidding. I mean, all you knew is Joe's name and his personality, and you knew what his strengths were as a wide receiver, and you knew what his weaknesses were as a wide receiver. See, this could revolutionize sports all over the world. And then he gave me another one, and he's like, this is a tight end. And I said, okay, as a tight end and this personality, this is his strengths. And he goes, and his strengths were totally different. I said, he's probably one of the most consistent players you have on the team, but he doesn't take risk. He's like, that's crazy. How do you know that? And you've never met him or talked to him. And then I had another one. He said, I think it was a quarterback. And he said, here's the quarterback. And I said, well, this is probably the way he is. And he's like, well, kind of, but he's a little different. And I said, really? Like, how? And he's told me, and I said, do you know his dad? And he's like, I do. And I said, is his dad a firstborn analytic? And he's like, I think he is. And I said, that's why. He's like, what do you mean? And I explained the science behind how a dad who's an analytic, who's raising a son that's an expressive driver, on how the dad will rewire that son's brain in a totally different way. And then for recruiting, then I explained to him, like, you're recruiting, you're selling, the player, and you're selling the parents, and you're going to have 3 different personalities. He's like, this is the most powerful recruiting system I've ever seen. I'm like, right? And that's what Life GPS will do. It'll be like all automated. So this is the ART system, the atomic ripple reaction tree. And so the ART system is being built in to Life GPS now as we speak. So when we go in here, we can go into here. We have 10 people in this. This is the coffee connection. And there's a whole bunch of different things that we'll go through in future podcasts what these things are. So Norman can understand them and then utilize them as needed. So here's the different people in the group. Here's the different people in the group. And so when I go ahead and do this, I can go into Kenny. And so in here, Kenny's completed the personality assessment. He's completed the passion circle, and he's completed the life balance wheel, and he's doing time tracking. There's different tools within Life GPS. These tools help you get to know the person very, very quickly. When there's a group of people, it'll take everybody's passion and it will combine them together and show you what this group's most passionate about. Like, I can't even tell you, like, I've been wanting this for over 20 years. And Shuaib and his team are making it happen. And then there's a mentor. So everybody gets a mentor and buddies. So you get somebody who's helping you, and then you're helping two other people. And it's just like having children. You think as a parent that you're there to help your kids learn, but I've learned far more from my children than I have my parents. Nothing against my parents. They were great. I'm just saying children teach you so much. Your buddies will actually help you more than your mentor will. Unbelievable. And so it also teaches you to always give at least twice as much as you receive. So the art system was actually, I don't know, discovered on a project with Life Masteries Institute, which is a nonprofit organization, amazing organization. Do a lot of volunteer, give a lot to them. It's insane what they're able to do. Anyways, so Emily and I were working on a project called Bringing Peace to the Middle East and Serenity to Self. And what we discovered, what we created, what's called an atomic ripple reaction tree. So in thinking about peace, what came to my mind is the atomic bomb, which is ironic, right? Like, and when you get into the science of an atomic bomb, you see that there's one little explosion that then creates another one, and then all of a sudden there's mass destruction. Or atomic energy can be used for something great. So how do we go ahead? So what it is there's a founder. So there's a whole bunch of, and we won't go into all the different things, but we'll cover this in future sessions. And so there's 30 roles. And so there's the founder role. And so in the founder is the creator. It's like the atom, like Adam, like the first human being, I believe. So the atom, the first one, it's the Ray Kroc, it's the entrepreneur, it's the one that comes up an idea. They're creators. And so they come up with an idea, and then all of a sudden they get two people. And these two people is one's a goal setter and one's, so the founder is the visionary. Here's my vision. So one of the things, like if any of you are ever looking for technology, like Shuaib and his team, I've been working with people in technology for over 30 years. They frustrate the living daylights. I've got a brother in technology and a son-in-law. They bug me too. Shuaib, he's totally different in his whole team and the whole culture of what they're building. So if you need, I'll put kudos out there. Like if you need technology, work with Shuaib and his team, his company, because they're amazing. He's been able to do things that I've never experienced somebody else doing. So you have a goal setter, and then you have somebody in follow-up. And then the next role is drive. These are the 7 most important roles right here. Somebody who has a vision. Somebody says, okay, here's the vision. How do I set goals? Once you have a goal setter, then you go ahead and say, okay, who's going to follow up? And then, but follow up, what if people decide they don't like it? They don't, like when I was at the camp and there was this young woman and she was 3/4 of the way up on the, on the trapeze. And she wanted to turn around and go down. And the one on the top says, come on up, come on up. Like, and they got her up and then they got her to do it. And then she was like, it was so cool. And there was a connection between her and I, not there, but later I saw her in the dining hall. I said, you're the one that went ahead and did it, right? That did the trapeze. She said, I did. And this huge smile comes over. So you don't need somebody who's good at goal setting. We'll teach them how to do it. You don't need somebody who's good at follow through. We'll teach them how to do it. And then somebody's going to drive things forward. How do you drive things forward without blowing things up? Then you need somebody who's great at communication. Then you need somebody who's strong in accountability. And then you need somebody who's a teacher. These 7 people come together. And Coach Ryan said the power of one. He said the power of one. And I'm like, what's the power of one? He said, so he would go and take his football team, and they would always go on a trip before the season to bring them all together. Like, what a better place to do than camp, right? And so he'd bring them all together, and he said, what I would teach them is he was genius. The guy's insane. He would have competition. So he'd have 2 teams, and they'd be competing against each other, Team A and Team B. And then they'd compete all the way. And the last exercise that he gave them, they were competing to win. And the only way that they could win is if they came together and they did the last exercise together. They couldn't do it without them all coming together. Like genius. Like we compete against one another, but we're a team. He said the power of one is, I taught if you strike an opponent with an open hand, it's when you strike an opponent with an open hand, it stings them. But if you bring that open hand, the 4 fingers and a thumb together, you strike them with a fist, the same force will knock out the opponent. So the power of one is you bring all of this stuff together. And when you bring all of this stuff, you get these 7 people, then you get the flywheel and the momentum. And that's really what Life GPS is going to do. Like it's going to help people learn how to do things that they need to do if they want to own a company, or if they want to go ahead and have a successful marriage, or if they want to come together in any type of group. It's going to teach them how to do all of those things. And so anyways, if you have any questions on what we covered today, feel free to connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll-free 888-230-2300 outside the US 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. In the next podcast we do, we'll actually talk about this. So we try to keep them to a half an hour roughly. So we're going to talk about this. Oh, if you can participate live, that's where the best is. Always come early, always stay late. So there's going to be things we're going to be talking about on the application of this that will not be recorded. So that's one of the benefits of coming live. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.